Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help ignite that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for experienced executive coaches and fractional executives to become licensed circle directors. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of accountability, challenge, and support. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. I am super pumped about our episode today. I get to hang out with Gabby Rosely from Chicago. She's a Gen Z speaker and executive coach. Gabby, I am fired up.
I am fired up, Mark. Very excited to be here and grateful for the opportunity.
Super. Well, look, I don't want to waste any of our time. I want to jump right into it. You do an amazing amount of work of talking through the different generations in the workplace. And there's so much written about the differences between the generations, especially in the workplace. I want to flip it and talk about some of the similarities that are out there, because I think we're closer to each other than we pretend to be.
I would agree. I think that the appreciating the differences, there's a lot of value in that, but I'm excited to bridge some of the gaps that we may perceive, but might not be as descriptive of reality as maybe some people would like to think. So I'd like to start with boomers and millennials, and then we'll talk about Gen Z and Gen X, because there's
Love
some
it.
really unique similarities between these cohorts. So, boomers and millennials both grew up in a time of unprecedented optimism, like what was available to them, the opportunities, and the, I guess, really capacity to make choice about their careers, about their commitments, about what they're loyal to, the brands, the companies, all of those things was very, very different than the generations prior to them or following them. So, very confident, very optimistic generation. And what they might perceive as a difference in work ethic is actually a deeper sense of involvement and desire for growth. And I think that the similarity is that there is a deep desire from both of those generations to make positive impact and to grow personally and professionally. But when we view it through the lens of what is hard work versus meaningful work, that's where we start to see them kind of
Mhm.
divide. Um, Boomers were the ones who created the 60 to 70-hour work week. And it's like hard work is first one in, last one out. Whereas millennials are really invested in purposeful, meaningful work. And so they might spend 40 hours in the office, but they know that their work is having a direct impact on the communities that they're serving. And in their eyes, that is the hard work, but it's still carrying this degree of confidence and desire for growth and impact that maybe they don't see right away, but they're really coming from the same place and center of the heart. Um, that would be a really big similarity that I'd like to bridge is meaningful work for boomers
Mhm.
and millennials. For Gen X and Gen Z, uh, both of those generations, I'm a Gen Zer, so
I'm
I
a Gen Xer, so this is perfect. We
yeah,
we can validate this right immediately.
yes, beautiful. Okay, my mom is a Gen Xer too, so this is great because her and I talk about this sometimes too. Um, Gen X and Gen Z both witnessed a lot of the veil being pulled on systems and corporations and things going on in the world, politically, socially, economically, that created a lot of skepticism and desire for practicality, realism, autonomy, that millennials and boomers may not have been inundated with as ferociously as these two generations. So Gen Z and Gen X are hyper independent generations, but that shows up differently, which sometimes causes them to butt heads. But what I find as a really unique similarity between these generations is that they have a deep desire to be spoken to and also to speak directly, not to beat around the bush. Like we want the words that we're sharing to be applied immediately, and we don't love sugarcoating things. Gen Zers have this like rap. People think that we're super sensitive, and that when you're giving feedback, you have to be really careful because we're gonna like cry about it and ask for a mental health day. But in all actuality, Gen Z is really desiring clear growth opportunities, which is oftentimes reflected in direct feedback. And Gen X is very similar in that They don't want you to beat around the bush. Like, give it to them straightforward, be direct, be concise. And if they don't use emojis at the end of their emails, don't worry about it. They're not mad at you. They're just getting to the point. Gen Z uses a lot more emojis than Gen X. However, they really appreciate direct, concise communication as well. So those are some really unique similarities that I think is fun to highlight.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know that I've thought of it that way, but you're right. And again, I think the format of my original question is I've said forever that I think our generations all want the same thing, right? They want to know where they're going, right? They want to believe in that. They want to be heard and they want to be appreciated. I mean, if to me that's like duh, right? And now how you go about it, those are different things, and what how you attack those things. I think it's you can go about it differently, but I think those core things in my head are what we all want.
Totally. And I actually have a slide that says exactly that in my workshops and my keynotes. And it says every human being from every generation wants the same thing, and it is to be heard and appreciated. That we all want that.
There you
Um,
go.
and the
You
way
and
that
I could go on tour together. That
yeah,
this
exactly, exactly. And the way that we go about expressing that appreciation varies from generation to generation, and that is what I think is important to note. So you're absolutely right. At the surface, the problem that I'm solving is intergenerational conflict and lack of communication. At the root of what I'm solving is empathy, emotional intelligence, and effective communication strategy and feedback frameworks. Like, the intergenerational communication is a buzzword now because we're in a multi-generational workforce that is more diverse than it ever has been. And so that on the surface is like buzzword, awesome. Yep, come on in, speak to our corporation. We need some help with our team, yada yada. But again, it really is these tools to have a level of awareness of our unique differences and similarities, and the frameworks to have the conversations that are going to ignite real change, sustainable impact, and also get people to be more engaged and fulfilled in the
Mhm.
work in the work that they're doing, the relationships that they have in the workplace. So,
Yeah, no, I like all that. I think, and I don't want to steal any of your work, but but when I look at it, the communication piece, I think you can. Well, let's just use DISC for example, right? The DISC assessment is about communication, right, and communication styles. And I th- I I don't know this, but I'm pretty sure that they have there's no generational subset of a D is a D, and I is I, and S is an S, and a C is a C, right? There's no generational component of it. So
mhm.
you could have a Gen Xer like me that's a high D. You could also have a Gen Xer that's a high I, right? And so I while I agree with you, I think labeling the intergenerational communication challenges, I don't know that that's it. I think communication challenges exist because of different styles that everybody has.
Mhm. I would agree, and I would also say that sometimes it's easy to identify the surface level problem that could be in age, in race, in class. Like, those are surface level problems, and at the end of the day, we're all human beings.
Yep.
And so I find that when I speak with leaders and they're talking about a marketing VP that is having a really difficult time connecting with a marketing intern, the most apparent issue is the difference in age. And so it's very easy to say, "Oh, well, they just don't get me because we're so different." And where do you go to in like the biggest difference on paper? It's your age. And
Hmm.
so it's really easy to identify, which is, like I said, that's where you place the magnifying glass, but underneath the magnifying glass, we're all human beings. And where I think that the generational cohorts have a lot of value is because of the flashbulb memories that shape the worldviews and value systems of each of the four major generations that I work with in the workforce. And so understanding some of the events that shape how people show up and how they perceive the world, how they perceive work ethic, how they perceive effective communication or even feedback, that is really helpful because, again, it's just the deeper understanding of your experiences. But oftentimes, when we're having a surface level connection right off the bat,
Hmm.
it's easier to to create space for that real relationship if we've got a couple of tells that say, okay, here's some familiar terminology, or here's some adaptable strategy that I'm going to be able to apply to a person like this, because they're not the same as I am. So if I can be aware of their differences, then it gives me more room to build a mutual connection.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love all that. Looking at time, we need to unpack some of that. I mean, really, the bottom line comes back to emotional intelligence, right?
Mm.
Like, I mean, being aware, reading the room, understanding who's in there, taking the time to get to know the people that you're talking to and have an understanding of where they're coming from, and asking really interested questions, not just interesting questions, and just understanding, right? And making an effort to understand who you're talking to, how they want to be talked to, what gets them excited, that type of stuff. No?
Absolutely. I totally, totally agree. I think that it depends also on the size of your team as well. A
Yeah.
lot of the leaders that I work with, if they have small teams, and I would consider a small team under 12, then they're a lot more apt to have those one-on-one conversations where those kinds of questions are able to be asked and answers are really be able to be unpacked. But for larger teams, when you're trying to connect with people online, especially like leaders who have team members all across the country or even the world sometimes, how to engage someone that you don't have the capacity to meet with on a weekly basis. That is also, I think, an important element to understand when it comes to like engagement strategies across the different generations. Size of team is a really big component. But I fully
Uh-huh.
agree. Those conversations so important. And as a leader, if you need to build out other leaders to make sure that they're reaching the people that you can't yourself to have those conversations, really important for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's give it a go. Break down some of the would you say the key happenings that help to shape the four generations?
Okay, I want to honor time too, so I'll keep it swift. Boomers was post World War II generation, so radically optimistic. They again normalized the 60 to 70 hour work weeks, so they were the last of the covenant generation. Like careers and corporations are telling them, stay with us until you retire. We'll pay you a pension. They were the last generation to ever have that, so
Yep.
they're characterized by a lot of loyalty, tradition, and hierarchy and seniority as well in their corporations. Uh, and then we go to Gen X, and the economy kind of yeah, well, that was quite the wrench in the dishwasher there. They've seen four economic recessions in their lifetimes, so a lot more I guess distrust in systems and corporations, so less loyalty. They started advocating for work-life balance and flexibility. And because this was the latchkey kid generation, parents were both in the workforce because the economy was so all over the place. Very independent, very practical. That shows up in how they work. Very, very unlike millennials who grew up with the engage discuss model, a lot more collaboration and dialogue, TV talk shows, 24-hour news, interconnectivity, social media, expression, authentic expression. And so they really value dialogue and they really value collaboration. If you were to put millennials and Gen Xers next to each other and you gave them a set of responsibilities and things that they needed to do, the Gen Xer would probably go off and start working immediately and get done what needed to get done. A millennial is going to stick around and ask a lot of clarifying questions, ask for other opinions, and want to offer theirs in return, to feel like they have a full understanding. Whereas a Gen Xer is just like, let me figure it out. Like, get away from me. Some Gen Xers, right? Some Gen Xers.
I
Um,
feel seen.
yeah. And and then when we think about Gen Z, there's a whole lot going on for Gen Z. We think about, yeah, wow, where do we even start with this? Technology, smartphones. We think about COVID-19. We think about cancel culture. We think about politics, gig economy. There are so many different things going on in Gen Z that the world is seeing for the very first time, just like other generations, but rapidly changing the way that Gen Z shows up in the workforce. And I want to just mention the gig economy specifically here, because for Gen Zers that are still going the corporate route, what I help leaders to build out is entrepreneurial advantage, entrepreneurial opportunity for this innovative generation within the confines of their role and its responsibilities. But giving room for that creative autonomy for Gen Z is really important when it comes to engagement. And yeah, I mean, it's like if a Gen Z doesn't want to work their marketing job, they can pick up however many shifts they want to on Uber and DoorDash, and they're going to be okay. So it's like a lot more autonomy that we see in this generation, and yeah, super important, I think, to understand when you're learning how to engage them for sure.
That's awesome. No, really amazing stuff. Thank you for sharing all that. And like you've got this stuff down. Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad I was able to. It was so nice being here.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask you one last question. And again, I'm shaking it up just a little bit. If you're at your retirement party, so I'm pushing you 40 years out, right? So you're at your retirement party and you're starting to reflect back on your professional career. What's the legacy that you left?
Hmm. I love that question. Legacy that I've left, more heart-centered leaders, more embodied leaders, more freedom, more people getting a little silly doing things in board meetings, more somatic expression in the workplace, more empathy, more conversations that qualify you as a whole human being, not just a working human being. Um, yeah, I wanna see deeper relationships at work and at home. I wanna see more people taking off the mask and leading with vulnerability, leading with curiosity, and leading with emotional intelligence.
Is that it? No. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Gabby, um, no, amazing. That's really great stuff. I really appreciate you sharing that. Do me a favor. Would you share with our audience what a typical engagement with you looks like and how can people get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So, my favorite thing to do are my team development programs. So, these are longer term coaching programs that I offer where we'll meet for 6 to 12 months. There will be quarterly workshops in there, or there will be 2 workshops within a 6 month period where we'll get the whole team together and we'll do some fun team development exercises, a lot of real time frameworks applied, and that's all customizable to each team. And then within that program, I also meet with each leader or a really active individual monthly for individual coaching. So those are my favorite engagements. But I also offer one-off workshops and keynote speaking where I'll talk about multi-generational communication strategy, talk about team development, and talk about emotional intelligence and communication in the workforce that we're operating in today. And then lastly, for the leaders and the high performers that I work with, we work one on one and we get into the nitty gritty of vision, your blind spots, what's getting in the way. We talk about communication, we talk about showing up, following your inner compass and establishing that connection with your vision and where you're at, your current reality, and really transforming your relationship with the gap so that you can live a more fulfilled life as a high performer. So yeah, a little bit of everything in there, but I love what I do. So happy to share more about it if anybody's interested.
That's great. How can we get a hold of you?
LinkedIn. I'm super active on LinkedIn. Gabby Rosely on LinkedIn. I have a podcast, the Gabby Rosely podcast. And you can find my email. You can find my website, gabbyrosely.com. If you want to reach out to me one on one, you can find my info there.
Very cool. Gabby, this has been amazing. Thank you for taking the time and sharing your insights and wisdom with our audience. I really appreciate it. This has been a blast.
Thank you so much, Mark. I love the show. I love the short and spicy episodes. This is great. Thank you for leading.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, y'all. We did it again. We found another amazing leader. So thankful for Gabby to hang out with me today and to share her insights. As we wrap it up, I want to remind you that Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an opportunity for experienced executive coaches and fractional executives to become licensed circle directors and significantly impact the lives of CEOs and entrepreneurs. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.